Nouns and articles in Spanish. The reason why I laugh every time I say that is because nouns. Who has thought of a noun recently? Not much of us, okay? Typically at the college level, in your English classes, or even just in all your classes, you're not thinking about parts of speech. And so before we even talk about what this is in Spanish, I want to make sure we all remember and are able to recognize what a noun is in English, and therefore can apply it to Spanish, because obviously it's the same thing. What is a noun? A noun is what? A person, place, or thing. Muy bien, excelente. You would be surprised how many times I ask this question when I present this concept to college level students and get crickets, like no response. I have no idea what a noun is. Profa.Z. Person, place, or thing. Okay? That's what a noun is. Person, place, or thing. So meanwhile, you can copy that on your handout. Or person, place, thing. Or if you're the type of learner that just wants to sit back and listen and not worry about taking the notes, then do that, and at the end of the presentation, take a picture of your classmates' handout. Okay? Person, place, or thing. Or you can go back and listen to this at home and then take the notes, just reviewing. So let's figure out if you can identify what a noun is, okay? So if it's a noun, thumbs up, C. If it's not, thumbs down, no. You don't have to write anything down at this point. El profesor. What do you think? Person, place, or thing? Sí, el profesor is a noun. No? Muy bien. Excellent. El lápiz. Okay, so without even knowing what this is, some of y'all might be like, I didn't take Spanish before. I have no idea what this is. Bear with me, okay, because we're going to start to notice a pattern. El lápiz. El lápiz. Sí. Okay? Ser. Even if you have no idea, you've never taken Spanish before, you might start to notice the pattern. Excelente. Ser, no. And we'll talk about why here in a second, but I want you to try to figure it out first. El país. Even if you have taken Spanish before, you might be like, I have no idea what that means, but I'm starting to notice something. El país, sí. Okay? And we'll talk about this here in a second. What about inteligente? Even if you haven't taken Spanish before, all y'all are inteligentes, muy bien, because this is what's called a cognate, a word that looks like a word in English, and we can conclude that that's not a person, place, or thing, that's an adjective, actually. La mujer. See or no? See or no? It's tricky, but hopefully we're starting to see a pattern, and now we can further apply the pattern. See. La mujer is a noun. What about la cosa? If la mujer was a noun, what do you think about la cosa? Sí. Because why? What are we starting to notice? What am I talking about when I'm referring to this pattern that you might be... Right. There's more than one word up there that makes it a noun, and specifically at the beginning, el profesor, el lápiz, la mujer, la cosa. What are we seeing, those two words? See?
Seeing the masculine and feminine.
Masculine, feminine. Fancy term for el, masculine, la, feminine. Noun Spanish we'll talk about here in a second. How do you identify a noun in Spanish? So this is on your notes. Back to your notes. How do you identify a noun in Spanish? El and la are articles. Okay? Today's concept is talking about nouns and articles in Spanish by their articles. An article that we've seen, el profesor, la mujer. Okay? So when I said, oh my gosh, I've never taken Spanish before, I don't know how to recognize a noun, you start to see patterns, and therefore you can draw conclusions and conclude, even though I don't know what el país means, it's got el before it, so it must be a noun. El is an article, like why it said masculine, la, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So, la mujer is a person. El país is a place. And a thing is la cosa. Okay? La mujer doesn't mean person. La mujer is actually the word for a woman. So, this is actually a vocab word. So if you didn't know that today, then maybe visit Quizlet to help solidify your vocab. ¿Cómo se dice el país en inglés? ¿Saben ustedes? Country. Muy bien. Country, like Mexico, Bolivia, Peru. La República Dominicana, los Estados Unidos, Canada. No? La cosa is actually the word for thing. That's what la cosa means. And they all have articles, el or la. So on your handout, you'll see it says circle the article for each noun from above, okay? So you want to go through and circle what in la mujer? The la or the mujer? What's the article? La, excelente. El país? El. La cosa? La. Muy bien. Okay? So what is article? Let's talk about what articles mean. How do they translate in English? So we talked about el and la just now. And we use el because that word, país, in Spanish is considered masculine. Like Wyatt said, or la cosa, the word thing, in Spanish is feminine. Romance languages have gender, okay? Not just among people and animals with scientific, biological gender, but among a pen is feminine, but a pencil is masculine. A book is masculine, but a chair is feminine. Everything has a gender in Spanish. Sí,
Why
Wyatt?
is it law of an air, like with the ER?
Buena pregunta. So Wyatt wants to know why it's la with mujer.
It means the woman.
Well, because it means the woman, but I think your question is stemming from, like, let's look at chicos. Los, it's obvious, right? That it's going to be los because we have that OS, right? Or las mochilas, it's obvious that it would be las, right? Cosa, la, profesor, even a little bit more difficult, el, but mujer is like profesor and ends in the same two letters. Those are the harder ones. And guess what? The supersite always puts the harder ones on there, the ones that are less obvious. Libro, el, chica, la. But then the supersite's going to put up país and other words that lapis that aren't so obvious, and those you just have to study and know and memorize and pay a little bit extra attention to their genders. So when you're learning this vocab on Quizlet, and it says el lapis, and you're trying to remember that that means pencil, take note of the gender of the noun as well, because then on the supersite, you're going to have to write el before lapis. So if you practice and identify the gender as you learn it, then maybe you'll be more successful on the supersite when you apply it. Back to the articles. El, la, los, or las. Why do you think we have 4 different words in Spanish for one word in English? El means the, la means the, los means the, las means the. Why do we have 4 different words in Spanish for one word in English?
Los and las, the plural form.
Los and las are the plural form, which is what you were saying, Sarah. So los and las are the plural forms. Multiple chicos, multiple mochilas we need to use. Los or las. And then, of course, we talked about gender. Masculine, feminine, singular, plural. 4 options. Nouns come in 4 different packages in Spanish. And therefore, even though they're all just saying the in English, we have to agree in number and gender. Singular, plural, masculine, feminine. You'll have lots of practice with this throughout the rest of your Spanish requirement. Really and truly, we'll be focusing on gender through 202. We never, ever, ever forget gender when we learn, even at the more advanced level. So now let's focus on the masculine and feminine gender. How can you tell, just to review, if it's a masculine or feminine noun? Like libro. How do you know libro is masculine? The O, right. Or how do you know that país is masculine? Libro is obvious that it's el, but what about país? El país. When you're studying it, you study it with el país. The article helps reveal the gender of the noun when it's not obvious, like libro or mochila or profesora. The article tells us mujer, you wouldn't know is feminine unless you knew its article was what? What's the article for mujer? La. Exactly. So that article really, really, really helps you figure out the gender of the noun. Okay? Masculine or feminine? It said, sorry, I'm just looking back at this handout. Masculine or feminine. Draw a box around the masculine articles from above. Draw a circle around the feminine articles. So we had el país. Actually, I have this on my PowerPoint. So we want to do, let's first focus on masculine. We're drawing squares or boxes around our masculine articles. So circle or square. El país, we're going to use a square because it's masculine, obviously, los chicos. But for la and las, círculo, okay? Just to make sure we're absorbing this. All right, so well, I don't want to do thumbs up and thumbs down because that's too sexist. On a little sheet of paper, do I have a sheet right here? Well, not really. You can just tear off a piece of paper, and on one side of the paper, write an M, and on the other side of the paper, write an F. Just a scrap piece of paper. M and F, masculine, feminine. Okay, because now we're going to go through this and you'll show me M or F, M-A or F-A. El lápiz. Muy bien, excelente. M-A, masculino. Los estudiantes. Fantástico. M-A, muy bien. El país. M-A. Los mapas. This is something you're going to see on the super site. Excelente. Fun. Muy bien. How did you guys figure that out? It looks feminine, doesn't it? Mapas? But we always defer to what? The article. Right, exactly. And we can tell that mapa, even though it looks completely feminine, is actually masculine. Los mapas. M-A or F-A. Las mujeres, F-A. And how do you know that? Las. Muy bien. ¿Cómo se dice mujeres en inglés? Women. Muy bien. El cuaderno, M-A or F-A. Perfecto. Los profesores. Muy bien. Los profesores, when we're dealing with people, the masculine gender always overrides. So even, and I'll talk about this here in a second, even when we have a group of men and women as teachers, we still refer to them as los profesores because the masculine gender is dominant, which is actually what I was about to talk about. Okay, profesores. It's masculine even if it's a group combined of men and women. Even if it's men and women, or estudiantes, or chicos. I'm like, when I talk to you all, I refer to you all as chicos. Even though there's clearly chicas in clase, I would say los chicos de mi clase, including everyone. Okay, so página 12 en el libro is where I'm referring to. I don't know why I wrote that down. El, la, los, or las. Un momento, chicos. Oh, okay. This has actually come from el libro. But what would you use for profesor? El, la, los, or las? El. Muy bien. ¿Y cómo se dice el profesor en inglés? The professor. The professor. Exactamente. La profesora. ¿Cómo se dice la profesora en inglés? The professor. Exactly. The only difference is gender. El cuaderno. ¿Cómo se dice el cuaderno en inglés? Notebook, exactamente, como la película. No? La película romántica, the notebook, el cuaderno. No, that's how you refer to that movie in español. Or that. Números. Los. Muy bien. ¿Cómo se dice números en inglés? Numbers, right. At the beginning of class, I had the word nombre. Nombre is name. But número, and the emphasis is on this U right here. Número is number. Escuela, la. ¿Cómo se dice la escuela en inglés?
School.
The school. Muy bien. Excelente. Programas. Everybody would get that wrong on the super site because it looks feminine, right? And at first glance, you're like, it's got to be las because it ends in AS. So this is the trick one, and these are the ones that you have to like extra memorize, but I've got a nice trick to help you remember. Okay, so even though it ends in as, actually, let me emphasize this ma, it's masculine. And a lot of the stuff that I tell my students to memorize grammar comes from other students' tricks that they learned to help them remember that. And I had a student like over a decade ago point out to class, masculine, okay? Masculine. Anything ending in ma, programa, problema, tema, síntoma, masculine, okay? The problem, el problema, okay? Los problemas, masculine. This one's another one you just have to memorize, so it's probably what? La mano. You just have to memorize. La mano is hand. La mano, even though it ends in O. Mapas? Los. This was another one, and I think that's why I referenced the book, because we have some here. Los mapas, another one you just have to memorize. Conversaciones. Actually, las. Okay, this is why we're going over them, because they're going to be on the super site. Also, anything in sion, televisión, comunicación, organización. Sion is feminine. La comunicación, la situación, las organizaciones, la. Feminine, okay? And if you were to go on Quizlet, you could create a set of flashcards for grammar to help you remember this. Lección una, and you could have articles, and you could have, just for the hard ones, obviously libro, you just don't even want to learn that because you know it's L. But the ones that aren't as obvious, like mapa, and you can copy them straight from the presentation. You can have the word on one side and the article on the other. And you can make a set of flashcards with the harder, less obvious gender and article ones from the book on page 12. It would take like 5 minutes to set up on Quizlet, and then it would really pay off, not just in 101, but through 202. Comunidades. Here's another trick one. It's actually las, muy bien. All right, so we said masculine. So ma is masculine, dad is feminine, okay? Dad is feminine, ma is masculine. Anything with dad, comunidad, ciudad, dificultad. Dad is masculine. What do you think las comunidades means in English? The communities. Muy bien. Dad is feminine. País, el, la, los, or las. El, this is one you have to memorize. So again, you can make your flashcards on Quizlet like this. El on one side, país on the other. You go through si país, and you produce el. ¿Cómo se dice el país en inglés? The country. Muy bien. Palabras, más. Muy bien. So don't make flashcards for them. It's too obvious. Okay, so we were talking about el, la, los, and las. And what do these mean in English? These the. The or the, however you want to say it. The. Okay? Those are definite articles. But then we have a different classification of articles in Spanish, just like in English. So this is on your handout. You have definite articles mean the in English. And you have el, la, los, and las. And they're organized in this little chart on your handout by number and gender. El, la, los, or las. They all mean the. It's a fancy term for definite articles. But we also have indefinite articles, and they don't mean the in English. Does anybody know what an indefinite article is in English? A or an. Exactly, a or an. A or an. Like a class, una clase. In English, we just use and before, vowel, a word that starts with a vowel. So in Spanish, we have, zoom out a little bit, una, unos, unas. Same concept, masculine, feminine, singular, plural, okay? Un profesor, un país, un mapa, un programa, unas chicas, unas comunidades, unas mujeres. But when they are plural, the plural ones actually mean some, okay? So on your handout, make sure you identify your plural forms actually mean some. And the singular form mean a or and. So if we want to say some women, unas mujeres. Or some professors, unos profesores. Okay? I always help students, I remind them, we have the in and indefinite, and all of these forms have an in them. So rely on that in to help you remember the fancy term for this classification of articles is indefinite. So on the supersite, it might say, remember the supersite is your homework. On the supersite, it might say to use the most appropriate definite article, but you actually put in all these unas, and then you get the whole thing wrong. You're like, oh, I didn't realize. So make sure you pay attention to the grammatical terminology just to make your time more efficient when you're doing your homework. If it asks for indefinite, that letter in is what you want in your answers, ¿ok? Bueno, chicos, entonces ahora vamos a hacer una actividad para practicar el concepto. En sus libros, página 13, aquí está, se llama Manos a la Obra, esta actividad.